are now listening to The Sports Report with your host, Josh Dow.
What's up, guys? It's Josh back with another episode of The Sports Report. Man, it was a crazy week in the NFL. It was a crazy week with the playoffs. We had the Steelers losing to Jacksonville. We had the Vikings pulling off a miracle. The Eagles knock off the Falcons. Not really an upset, but to some it was. And the Patriots looked good against the Titans. So we're going to start our headline section covering the NFL playoffs. We're going to get into some MLB talk. We're going to get into the NBA, which isn't really looking like the NBA anymore. It's looking like Wrestlemania. It's looking like the WWE, basically. So we're going to get into all that in the headline section, and we're going to kick that off with the Steelers and the Jaguars.
This is the Sports Report News and Headlines.
So the Steelers, in at least my opinion, should have won that game. I know it really wasn't a close game at all. They fell down early in the game, but their play calling, fourth down, I mean, we're running a sweep on 4th and 1, a pass play on 4th and short, which not a terrible call. Ben easily could just QB sneak it though. You know, like those right there are two plays that I don't want to say changed the game, but definitely took momentum away from the Steelers. They had 2 turnovers. One was a scoop and score. You never want the other team's defense to score. And then the other one gave the Jags a short field position. So you had a fumble that they scored on, and then an interception that gave them, the ball in the 30 or something like that. So, I mean, questionable calls. And then the onside kick. This was the one, and I was texting some Pittsburgh fans as this was going on. You have 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. So basically you have 3 timeouts. You're down a score and you decide to onside kick, where if you kick it deep and you stop them, you're within a score. Now, the onside kick, if you don't stop them, or if they get 1 first down, they're in field goal range. And then that puts you down 2 scores. So it just didn't make sense to me. I know a couple people said, well, they haven't been able to stop Fournette. They haven't really stopped the offense. Well, that drive they did stop them. Take that chance in a clutch situation. Your defense is going to make that stop. They would have got the ball back, a minute left, whatever it was, and had an opportunity to go down and score. Where instead they give up a field goal, lose the game. It was just a questionable call. And I understand from the aspect of, if you have 0 faith in your defense, that's where you got to go. So it just overall was just not a good game for Pittsburgh. They honestly let the Jacksonville Jaguars beat them, which to me, game plan going in, stack the box. Fournette is a beast. There's no doubt about it. He's a beast. But you're going to let Blake Bortles, just get off scot-free, basically. He didn't have great numbers. What did he go? 14 for 26 for 214 yards. Didn't have a touchdown. if you stack the box, make Blake Bortles a below average quarterback, in my opinion, beat you. I'm telling you right now, they're not putting up 45 points. They're not putting up 45 points at all. So you let Fournette run 25 times, get 3 touchdowns, and he was out for some of the game. That's bad preparation. That's bad preparation. Now, I haven't gone back and looked at the game tape and seen how their defense aligned. I could be wrong, and they could have stacked 7-8 in the box and they just got outmanned, outmuscled on the front. But I would likely say they didn't. They were coming out 6 in the box, nickel, something like that, where they were just beat. They were just beat preparation wise, which is not a good look for Tomlin, which I would think he's on a short leash, but who knows? I don't really know what's going to happen with that situation. I know the Steelers did fire their offensive coordinator. A lot of fans have been saying that. I mean, I went to college near Pittsburgh between 2011 and 2015. In all 4 years, they were calling for, different play callers. Now, Pittsburgh fans are a different breed. They're never going to be happy unless you bring home a championship. So I take that with a grain of salt. But in this case, specifically Todd Haley, they had a lot of issues with his play calling for a number of years, a number of seasons. So I don't know how long he's been in Pittsburgh, to be honest with you, but fans are not sad to see him go, and I'm not sure how they're going to feel about Tomlin if he gets the old boot. But right now, Steelers fans and Pittsburgh fans in general are they just want to get back. I mean, they have the talent. They're getting almost out-coached. And against teams like Jacksonville who don't have the same... Don't get me wrong, Jacksonville's defense is incredible. But if you score 42 points against Jacksonville's defense, you should win that game. And I believe the final score was 45-42, something like that. The game of probably the game of, I don't want to say the decade, because last year's Super Bowl obviously is up there. But a game that it'll go down in history as the miracle in Minneapolis. The Vikings pulled off still the most improbable win I've witnessed, coming down to the last second. You have the Patriots last year coming back overall, but just the overall game. So just to recap the whole game, the Vikings were up 17-0 at halftime. Saints get back into it. The final 3 minutes of the game, there were 4 lead changes. 4. So, I mean, it was back and forth for the last 3 minutes. I mean, there's videos captured of Vikings fans, and I will say they're some of the funniest videos, because you go, as a sports fan, you can relate to it. You go from losing all hope to we're going to win, to we're losing all, there's no way we're going to win, to how the heck did we just win? It's unbelievable. And what happened was Case Keenum, as time expired, 61-yard bomb to Stephon Diggs. I have no idea how Williams missed that tackle. I mean, I don't know what he was doing, but Stephon Diggs catches the ball, basically spins, and just sprints up the field for a touchdown. I mean, all you have to do in that situation, if you're the DB, is make the tackle. Like, just don't get beat. And he didn't. He was right there. He didn't get beat. I still have no clue what happened. Still. I mean, I'm just imagining the conversation maybe in the timeout, hey, or right before the Vikings take over. Hey, safeties, cornerbacks, keep everything in front. Don't let anybody behind you. Keep them in bounds, keep the clock moving. Things like that. Maybe they should have said, hey, let's try not to suck. Let's try not to blow this one, huh? Because that's what they did. I mean, it's heartbreaking. Like, and yes, I felt for that DB. I felt for Williams. But honestly, I felt for Drew Brees. Think about Drew Brees' career. There's a few plays in his career where, yeah, he's an all-time great, but a few plays go his way. We're talking about him and Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. Some people are willing to do that, but there's a lot of people that forget. You know, Brees doesn't necessarily have the rings. He definitely has the yards passing. He definitely has the statistics. Doesn't have the rings. That's not his fault that his DB forgot how to play. Forgot what he was doing. Forgot where he was. So, craziest game by far of the weekend, definitely of the season. I don't even know why I said probably, definitely of the season. They're calling it the Miracle in Minneapolis. I'm still speechless. The Patriots, a little less dramatic. They pretty much dominated the Titans. Brady threw the ball 53 times, over 300 yards. Had 3 TDs, which was great because he was on my daily fantasy team. Amendola looking like Edelman out there, went 11 catches for 112. James White, Mr. Playoffs, he had 2 touchdowns, rushing and receiving, I believe. That's how it broke down. Basically what happened was the first quarter, Patriots were just feeling everything out, seeing what was going on. They trailed 7-0 and then just destroyed the Titans. They won 35-14, something like that. I really thought this game was going to be a little closer. When I saw the line at 13.5, I thought the Titans were going to keep it within a couple touchdowns, 10-point game, something like that. And I was concerned that this game was going to be like a 30-point game at one point. It just looked bad. On a bright note, Marcus Mariota led the team in rushing, did well in passing wise, 254 for 2 TDs. But man, I really thought we would see something out of the Titans. You know, maybe a little bit more out of Derrick Henry. But they stifled him. They stifled him. And that gives me hope. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, that the Patriots will do well against Fournette. Now, Fournette's another animal. Fournette's definitely another animal. But the Patriots are really good at, we're going to take away your best player, and then we'll see what happens. If you beat us after that, hey, tip the cap, and that's what, that happens. But I would bet Belichick is looking at this like, hey, the Steelers lost by 3, and Fournette and not protecting the ball and dumb play calls were the reason. The Patriots aren't going to beat themselves like the Steelers just did. So that'll be interesting to watch. But the Pats they rolled, and they looked really, really good in their game against the Titans, which I was talking to some people, and they were just like, man, you don't understand how bad the Titans are. Which surprised me, because I really thought the Titans were going to be a little bit better than they were, but they were correct. So I shout out, and you know who you are if you're listening, that you are correct. It wasn't even a contest. Probably the most boring game of the week was the Eagles and the Falcons. Now, if you like defense, it was all right. Foles played well enough to get the win. He completed a ton of passes, 23 for 30. For 246, Falcons just looked bad. I mean, both teams didn't look great on offense, but the Falcons, I don't even know. I mean, their season's over, so it's not like we're going to get another look, but I don't know what's wrong. Like, something's just not clicking. I understand, coordinators leave and stuff like that, but man, for them to just that much of a drop. I mean, Julio still went for 100 yards. He had 9 catches, which he's going to get his numbers. It just, Matt Ryan didn't look great. Eagles, I mean, their defense maybe it's that good. Maybe it's that good that the Falcons just couldn't get anything going. But if the Eagles are going to continue, that's what they're going to do. They're going to get the defense going. That's what they need to do. They're not going to beat the Vikings. Honestly, they're not going to score 35 points against the Vikings. I don't see it happening. I think the Vikings and Jacksonville, defensive-wise, the two best. So the Eagles, if they're going to win, we're going to have another game like 15-10, something crazy like that in Philadelphia. So who knows what the weather's going to be like. But yeah, that game was honestly pretty boring. It was pretty boring. So that sets us up with the conference title games. We have Jacksonville at New England. And we have Minnesota at Philly. So 2 outdoor games, 2 football towns, cold, brutal winters. Haven't looked at the weather. Honestly, the weathermen don't really know what they're talking about anyway. So I haven't really looked at the weather and what's going on with what's going to happen in terms of picks from the weather side. Obviously, if it's a blizzard in New England, the under would probably be the play. But anyway, we'll talk about that obviously in the next section. We're going to get into some baseball talk now. And this is where Pittsburgh fans, not only did you lose to the Jags, but now you lost Gerit Cole and you lost McCutchen. I mean, in the last 72 hours, last week when you hear this, Pittsburgh has gone through a lot as a sports town, as a sports city. Gerit Cole, he's on his way to Houston, and my biggest thing, so I've heard mixed feelings on this. So Gerit Cole is loved by some, and some feel he's very overrated. And that's from a fan base standpoint of the Pirates. So the rotation in Houston is already good. The lineup is phenomenal in Houston. I think this is the exact move that Gerit Cole needed to not revive his career because it wasn't over, but revamp it. He had some good years in Pittsburgh. He was on a down slope for a little while. This might be the move that gets him back to, hey, Gerit Cole could be a 20-game winner. Something in that, realm, especially with that team. The Astros obviously coming off a huge World Series. But now they add Gerit Cole to that rotation with McCullers and more in Keuchel. Wow, he's like their best pitcher, and I couldn't even think of it. You add him to that rotation. It's unbelievable. So, one thing I will say is I don't want Pirates fans to think, maybe Gerit Cole goes, 16-5 this year. Throwing a number out there, I don't really know, obviously. So, say he goes 16-5. I don't want you guys to think, see, we shouldn't have sold him, or we shouldn't have, or we should have went out, we should have kept him, signed him for a long-term deal, whatever, kept him in Pittsburgh, because that's not how it works. That's not, if he would have stayed in Pittsburgh, I don't think it would have changed anything for him. Look at Verlander. Verlander it seemed like he was on a downtrend. He goes to Houston and is, the best pitcher in baseball while he was with Houston. So, not saying Gerit Cole's going to see that same success that Verlander saw, but man, if he is at least a little bit effective, that's a scary rotation with a scary lineup. That team's got to be a top 2 favorite, if not the top favorite to win the World Series. I know the Yankees are going to be up there and the Cubs and stuff like that, but Houston's going to be back up in that mix really fast. And then not only did the Pirates get rid of him, they got rid of McCutchen. McCutchen went to the Giants. So there's been petitions signed. There's been a lot of angry fans trying to get rid of the owner, saying, he doesn't want to win. He doesn't care about the team. He doesn't care about the city. He cares about making money, which, yes and no. Obviously you want to turn a profit. He's a businessman. But I agree with that statement. I agree with them questioning, do you really want to win? No, Gerit Cole might not be the answer. No, McCutchen might not be the answer. But this is a reoccurring theme with them. Selling guys, getting rid of guys. It just seems like, a few years ago they were in the playoffs. But they never won anything. They weren't in a World Series. They weren't in an NLCS. At least not to my knowledge. So, it's like they were content with, hey, we made it to the playoffs. They have a couple rough years, and the team is just cleaning house. Well, I think the biggest issue is there's some front office issues, maybe GM, something like that. But if it is ownership, man, until he sells or until he starts spending money, they're in trouble. And I know I saw the petition, before the petition to get a new owner in there. I jokingly was talking to a couple of guys I went to college with, and I said, I'm going to start a GoFundMe page, and I'm going to buy the Pirates. And then I saw the, hey, let's get a new owner in here, sign the petition type thing. Man, if I could get enough people, if I get everyone in Pittsburgh, throw some money, a couple rich guys throw me a lot of money, man, I might really buy the Pirates. I might really start a GoFundMe and buy the Pirates. I'll give it a little bit of time before I do this. But I'm telling you right now, if they keep doing this, and Harrison is looking to get out now, they're looking to trade him. If this gets serious, hey, I might take a stab at it. I might start that GoFundMe page. I don't know why not. It's just getting investor money. Obviously, there's some things I got to work out. Might be worth trying. Can't be any worse than the owner they have now. And trust me, I'm willing to spend some money, because it ain't mine. It'll be investor money. I'm willing to spend some money to get that team going. get that fan base buying back in. So, who knows, in a couple years, you might be listening to this podcast and it might be the owner of the Pirates doing this. I think I'll be a little too busy, but we'll see what happens. The Yankees obviously didn't get Cole, so now they're trying to grab Darvish while he's on the market. I mean, they're the complete opposite of the Pirates. They're just trying to buy everybody, buy the rings. Why not? So we'll see. I could see it. I mean, why wouldn't Darvish want to go there? He wants to play for a competitor. The Yankees are definitely a competitor this year. The Brewers are really trying to grab Arrieta and Moustakas, which seems far-fetched that they'll get both. Never mind one of them. But if I had to guess, I would say they would probably get Moustakas over Arrieta. I don't know where Arrieta wants to go, but to me, Milwaukee's not the spot for him. Milwaukee's probably not where he wants to be at this point in his career. I could be wrong, but man, we'll see what happens in that sense. I did see this morning the Red Sox offered a 5-year, $100 million deal to JD Martinez. Fingers are crossed that he accepts. I am fairly confident, we'll say 87%, random number, throw that out there, 87% confident that he signs. I don't think he's going to get $120 million, anything over 5 years. So that's probably going to be the top deal that he gets. I say that with hesitation because there's always a team in baseball willing to overpay. Luckily, I'm a fan of one of them, and they don't care about the luxury tax. So I think Dombrowski's really high on getting JD Martinez, and they're going to do everything they can to get him. So, I mean, we're, a month from pitchers and catchers reporting, and we still have a lot of unanswered things going on with free agency and some big trade rumors. Machado signed a $16 million deal to avoid arbitration. But honestly, we could still see him move. Less likely now, but we could see him move before his contract's up. This could be a deal that's done during the season just so they get somebody. They might try and sign him long term. If he doesn't agree, they would probably trade him just so they get somebody instead of him testing free agency and getting nobody. So I wouldn't be surprised if we still see Machado move, I would say, before the deadline. Now, the O's aren't going to get what they want for him just because teams can say, okay, we'll just wait. If you are asking for 71 prospects and, millions of dollars. No, they're not going to take that deal because in 4 months he'll be a free agent. Why sell the farm when you have an opportunity to try and get him in free agency? So I don't think the O's are going to get what they want for him, but they could still get a really good deal for him. So MLB, I can't wait for it to actually start, but man, there's so many leading up to spring training. There's so many things that could still change that I really have no idea what's going to, I never saw Cole going to Houston. I really didn't. I thought he was going to be a Yankee. So, man, some crazy things going on. The NBA, talking about crazy things going on. Let's talk about the NBA. Why is everybody trying to fight everybody in the NBA? Everybody. I mean, we have, at first it was just players hating on the refs. Just getting ejected, throwing mouthpieces like Steph Curry does. I'm sure they've been bumped and, fined and all that stuff. But now we have players trying to meet each other in the tunnel to fight. Ben Simmons and who was it? Kyle Lowry, was that who it was? They were, meet me in the tunnel. What are we doing? What are we doing? We have the Rockets sneaking into the Clippers locker room to confront Austin Rivers and Blake Griffin. Like, this is a circus. I can't even imagine what the reasoning is behind all this. It doesn't just, there hasn't been this many issues in the NBA in a long time. I'm interested to see the amount of ejections, technical fouls, everything like that at the end of the season, because it seems like every game there's an opportunity for a fight to break out. Literally every game. Now, my question is are they doing this for attention? Are they doing this for ratings? Are they doing this because the guys that played in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are calling the NBA players in this generation soft, and they're trying to prove that they can get chippy too? Like, what's the reasoning? Like, it's fine when Kevin Durant and Westbrook get chippy. Not chippy. They're not, telling each other that they're going to meet each other in the locker room or whatever. They're talking. They're talking smack, which is fine. That's fine. That's part of the game. But to sneak into another team's locker room, not only that, but to send a decoy to knock on the front door so security goes, and then you, Chris Paul, lead your team through some secret tunnels or whatever, and into the back of the locker room. It's like Wrestlemania every NBA game. I did. And here's what I think. If this is going to continue, these games, if we're going to be realistic, these games don't matter. These games do not matter, especially to some teams like, the Rockets. There's a good chance they're a 1 or 2 seed, probably a 2 seed in the playoffs. These games don't matter till they get in the playoffs. So if it's chippy now, what are the playoffs going to be like? It's going to be like, there's going to be, every player is going to foul out. Everyone's going to be ejected. They're just going to end the game. Like, I don't understand what the reasoning is. Like, I'm not saying that this is okay, but I'm telling you, there's no dull moment in an NBA game anymore just because someone's going to say something and the punches will be thrown, people will be ejected. You just never know what you're going to get. Never know. Never know. So, that's what I got for headlines. Had a lot to cover, but let's get into against the spread.
It's in! You covered, yes, it's good!
Are you sure what's the final score?
Miami by 4! You covered! 12!
I covered!
Yes!
What is against the spread? The spread?
We got 2 things. It's real simple. We have the NFL playoffs. We're going to start with Jacksonville at New England. Real simple. New England is favored by 9.5. The over-under is 46.5. So my biggest thing is I know Bill Belichick is smarter than apparently the Steelers, because if you watch the Jags and what they did to the Steelers, game plan should be pretty simple. Stack the box and let a 14 for 26, no touchdown throw in Blake Bortles beat you. He's not going to put up better numbers than Brady. So if you stop the run and make Bortles throw, I'm confident in the Patriots' corners and DBs to match up and contain Jacksonville. Like, I really think that this game could get ugly. Not saying it's going to be a 20-point game or anything like that, but Jacksonville's offense could get embarrassed because the game planning, that's what New England's known for. So the only thing that scares me is Jacksonville's defense. They match up well with the Patriots. They have really good corners. Everybody knows they have all-pro corners. Physical, athletic linebackers that can match up against Gronk. Now, no one can really truly match up against Gronk, but they'll do their job. But here's where I'm convinced New England's going to go a lot. James White and Dion Lewis are two backs that are perfect for the Patriots system. They're shifty, they're small, they're quick. They're going to get out in space and move the ball. Dion Lewis is running the ball really well. Amendola has been playing really well. We're going to need him a lot in the slot. Simply because I do think the Patriots defense is going to look extremely good against Jacksonville's offense, I'm going to take the Patriots minus 9.5. Simply because they're not going to let Fournette beat them. They're going to make Bortles beat them. They're going to protect the ball. That's what New England does. Little dink and dunks here and there. They'll run the ball. They're not a bad running team. You know, Dion Lewis will run the ball decently. I'll take New England to win by 10, especially after what I saw last week from both teams. And depending on the weather, if it's clear, I'll take over 46. If there's not a lot of wind, not a lot of snow, no rain, anything like that, I'll take over 46.5. So keep an eye on the weather report, because if it looks disgusting out, you know, that typical New England weather where it's just windy and cold and the possibility of snow, we could see it be a little bit more low scoring, and you want to jump on that under 46.5 before it drops to 41 or 42. So keep an eye on that. The other game is Minnesota minus 3.5 at Philadelphia. The over-under is 38. Man, Minnesota, to me right now is the better team. Philadelphia, realistically, shouldn't have won last week. Defensively, yes, they should have won. Offensively, didn't look great. Minnesota is a much better team than Atlanta. And they have a far more momentum coming into this game, knowing that they could have lost last week. Knowing that they could be home watching the NFC Championship game. So they're going to have a lot more passion, they're going to be fired up going into Philadelphia. But here's my issue. Nick Foles looked really good. 23 for 30 is pretty good for a backup quarterback. Now, granted, he was a starter a few years ago, but man, he did look, if he can protect the ball, he might be all right with that Eagles defense. Minnesota to me is just a better team. I think this is going to be another defensive game. Again, depends on the weather in Philadelphia. I'm not going to touch the 38 because that seems pretty, like a 21-17 game seems pretty legit. It seems pretty likely, honestly. But I really think Minnesota minus 3.5 is the way to go. And I think that Minnesota simply because they are, if this game was in Minnesota, it would be probably closer to a touchdown. So I don't know if the home field advantage, just because of the momentum Minnesota's riding on, will make that much of a difference. Now, Philadelphia is a tough place to play. Minnesota's a better team. Minnesota's just overall a better team than Philadelphia without Carson Wentz. That's the key. Without Carson Wentz. So I'm taking Minnesota minus 3.5 for this game. And that's going to set up in my picks New England and Minnesota in the Super Bowl, which would be a great Super Bowl. I really wanted to see a Brady Breeze Super Bowl, but obviously that's not going to happen now. It was looking good till about, 4 seconds left in the game, the Minnesota game. So I'll settle for New England and Minnesota in the Super Bowl. So just as a little disclaimer for the against the spread here. In the future, we're getting down to the end of football season where the lines are out, a week in advance usually. Like the New England-Jacksonville game was out Sunday night. The line was out. Basketball, baseball, they're a little bit different. They usually set the day before. Obviously, baseball depends on starters, lineups. Basketball games are so close that they usually only do it the day before. So I'm developing a plan for what I'm going to do for the against the spread section. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm either going to do tips. I'm going to do certain matchups and what to look for. Possible, hey, this is what the line we should look for. This team's hot. They're, 17-4 at home. Something like that. That'll give you tips for what to look for when the lines do come out for college basketball. Might do a little NBA in that sense as well, but I'm more of a college basketball guy, especially with NBA players. You're going to start sitting out because that's how the NBA works now. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, we have the Super Bowl coming up. Might dabble in it a little bit next week because obviously there's a week off between the Super Bowl. So might see a little bit of that next week, so be on the lookout for that. Might also do some tips, what to look for in line movement. If there's a lot of money on one side, but the line doesn't move a lot, what that means with sharps and everything. So there's a lot that we can get into in that sense. So we'll definitely get into that a little bit more next week. But let's get into the last section. It's real quick. It's real simple. It's what to watch for. And like I said, it's real simple. You got the NFL playoffs. You got 2 really good games. You got New England and Jacksonville, and you got Philadelphia and Minnesota. Check those out. Other than that, if there is an NBA game on, watch it. Because Wrestlemania, a Royal Rumble, anything UFC, WWE, a boxing match, anything could take place. Nobody knows. A backyard brawl, like Kimbo Slice style. Nobody really knows what's going to happen in an NBA game anymore. So tune in, especially with games like the Clippers and the Rockets. If there was a player that moved to a new team, there's probably going to be a fight. That's like standard now in the NBA. So be on the lookout for that. And then the last thing, January 23rd. So a little bit of ways, but this is going to be a game I definitely want to watch. Kansas and Oklahoma. There's a kid on Oklahoma. I can't remember his name right now. His first name's Trey. He is phenomenal. They're saying like he's like the next Steph Curry. He's dropping like 40 points a game. Kid is unbelievable. Oklahoma's top 10 team. I don't know what they're going to be at the time of this game. Kansas is probably top 10 team by the end of the year anyway. Going to be a good one to watch. There's some other good games on. I think Creighton and Xavier play this week. Pitt just played Duke. Duke plays somebody good coming up. Virginia, I believe, coming up in the next week or two. So, I mean, there's some good college basketball going on. Pretty much West Virginia's been playing some tough opponents. They're a good team. So, we're in the heart of the conference schedule where teams are going to start getting upset. We've been seeing that. Some good college basketball is going to be played. Plus, we got the NFL winding down. And we have Wrestlemania NBA style going on. So, a lot of stuff. A lot of good stuff going on in the sports world. Guys, as always, it is a pleasure. I will be back next week. Take care.